my directive.
Which was?
To retrieve the code from your disk and delete the carrier.
Dillinger told you to delete me?
Hang on!
You're listening to Tonebender's Sound Design Podcast, presented by Sound Ideas, where we talk with the sonic artists behind our favorite films, games, and series. Sound Ideas is closing out the year with a massive year-end sale, and you're invited. From now through the end of December, enjoy 50% off all proprietary items, including premium sound effects and production music trusted by creators worldwide. Don't wait. These savings disappear on December 31st at midnight as the calendar moves into 2026. So check out sound-ideas.com today to save 50% and create something amazing. Hello and welcome to Tonebenders. My name is Tim Muirhead and I will be talking with the sound team behind Tron Ares, the latest film in the Tron franchise, and a film where it seems the entire production was built to make the sound design shine. This film sounds amazing. If you look at reviews from mainstream critics, many of them have made special mention of just how great the film sounds, which is something that regular critics don't actually mention very often. Joining me to talk about their work on Tron Ares, we have 4 members of the sound team. First up, we have re-recording mixer Ron Bartlett joining us from Los Angeles. Welcome to Tonebenders, Ron. It's great to see you.
Thanks for having us. I really appreciate it.
Next up, we have supervising sound editor Bård Engelbretsen joining us from Oslo. Good to meet you, Bård. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm very well.
We have Addison Teague, who is a supervising sound editor and sound designer, who is also joining us from LA. It's wonderful to meet you, Addison. Thanks.
Nice to meet you too, Tim. Thank you so much.
And finally, we have Tormod Ringnes, re-recording mixer, sound designer, supervising sound editor, joining us from Oslo. Tormod, it's great to see you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Let's talk about this production. As I mentioned in the intros, 2 of you are in Oslo, 2 of you are in LA. How did this come together that you are all working together on this huge, massive film? Maybe, Tormod, you want to take that first?
We have been working with Joachim on several films since his first Norwegian short film, and we have been collaborating with him so many times. And when we did The Young Woman and See, I think it was the latest day on the file, he told us that we may be gonna do Tron. That was amazing, of course. And then we got the whole of it. We gonna collaborate with Addison at Skywalker, and that was amazing because he was part of Tron Legacy. So that was amazing to just bring that legacy. And then we found Ron. We had a really nice talk with Ron, and he really wanted to do this film. And for us, it's been amazing. And I feel that it's been a great team, that we have been a creative from day one, and we started quite early. So for me and for Bård, it's been a great journey working with Ron and Addison.
I like the way you say you found Ron, like you discovered him. Yeah. This is his first movie he's worked on.
I was under a rock.
It's about time you got to work on something big, Ron.
I was around.
Addison, do you want to talk about your perspective to get to work with the Norwegian crew?
Yeah, I was a part of the Tron Legacy crew, which was pretty amazing to get to work on that. A Tron movie is kind of a sound designer's dream, right? So incredible crew at Skywalker. And then when I heard that they finally got this movie greenlit and that Joachim was directing it, I thought, oh, well, there goes my chance to work on another one, because Joachim always works with Bård and Tormod, which is amazing that they're so loyal and they have such a history. But it worked out that we were able to put together this collaboration. I'm based in Los Angeles on the Disney lot where the picture department was, so I was able to be the person in the picture department while these guys were working in Norway. And then we're linked to Skywalker Ranch, where we had some additional crew. Yeah, it all really came together. At times we didn't know where we were going to be mixing temps, whether it was going to be in London or here. And so our infrastructure through Skywalker to have servers syncing all over the world made this pretty seamless. It didn't matter that we were that far away from each other. We could work in tandem the whole time.
Board, 3 of you are listed as supervising sound editors. How did you divide up the workload?
Because of the time difference between LA and Norway, we could constantly work on different reels and develop and design stuff. And then you wake up the next day and it's something new in the reels. So that was quite cool as well. I did a lot of Foley effects recordings that we developed into sound effects. And also I supervised lots of the Foley work on this film. Addison, he did, for example, the discs in this film, and Tormod did the light cycle. So it was kind of defined, but we did all kinds of stuff, all of us.
Ron, one thing that I discovered when watching the film is that it's loud, but it's not fatiguing, which is a very, very difficult tightrope to walk upon. Do you want to talk about maybe how you achieve that, what your philosophy is on keeping it loud, and how you find ways to make it so it doesn't feel like the proverbial frying pan to the head?
Yeah, I don't like that. I'm not into super bright, loud mixes that just pin your ears back. I feel it takes you out of the film. I normally don't like to mix that loud, but in this case, it was brought to us like, hey, this is a very music forward kind of mix, and it's 9 Inch Nails, and they have a real idea, a very good concept of what they want out of the film. So we kind of took their lead on where it would sit, but it's my job and Tormod, to really sculpt this film to where it's not fatiguing. It doesn't push you out. It's supposed to draw you in. How do you do that? Well, it's there's so many layers, so many decisions to make throughout the day, but mainly it's giving the right EQ to things. So you're taking out some of the 2 to 4K range where it might be biting. You really soften certain things, push things back in the room. You do it with space, panning into Atmos. Pushing and pulling layers, trying to build more dynamics into the film is very important. So if you're able to bring stuff down to very quiet, you're allowed to get loud later and give yourself a break for the audience. If it's loud throughout, you just have no chance.
You've never mixed with Tormod before, I'm assuming?
Never met that guy in my life. Actually, we did meet. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah. We were joking about this. We figured out, oh, no, we have met. We met in London at the BAFTAs.
At the Oscar, actually.
Okay.
Oscars, sorry.
Yeah, the Oscar. I did Flea, and you was June?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys originally met at the Oscars. I guess, Tormod, you were there for the film Flea, an amazing animated documentary that I think is the only film ever to be nominated in all 3 categories in the same year for Best Animated Film, Best Documentary, and Best International Film. And then, Ron, you were there for being nominated for Dune, which you won that night.
And Board as well. He came to Fox to tour the studio, and it was the day after the Oscars. We were wiped. It was like pathetic. Yeah. We barely got into work that day.
He didn't work too much that day.
No, there wasn't a lot going on after that. But it was super fun, and I do remember him back then. And have we ever worked together? No, absolutely not. But what a fun situation that we all landed in together, and I think we're all smiling about that because you just never know. Like here's 2 guys from Norway. I'm like, who are these guys? I've heard their name because Kon-Tiki and some other films and things like that, but never had the chance to work with him or even talk with him. And so I was curious about language barriers, ideas, concepts, what their sensibilities were like, all of that. But man, I couldn't have asked for a more fun, creative situation where we all really helped each other out along the way. It was fantastic.
These were all new relationships. I said earlier, a Tron movie is kind of like a dream. We all landed in that slot, but like Ron and I live, 10 miles from each other. I've never met the guy in my life till this show. So
Wow.
I've heard his name for years and never had the chance to work with him. So I was like, great. I've heard such great things, and they were all true, except that one thing.
That one thing, but-
You know.
But you guys were very welcoming as well. So we felt really taken care of. So and it's have been a blast and super fun.
So it was mixed in Los Angeles, correct?
At Disney, yeah.
Yeah.
At Disney in Los Angeles. So when Torma shows up and gets on the sound effects side of the board, was there anything that you learned from the way he's been working in Norway that you've maybe taken into your own workflow, or maybe the other way around as well, Torma?
Oh, I think there was a lot of back and forth with us in not only technical, but aesthetics, and talking about how we would deal with the score and how that integrated, because that was a lot more challenging than a normal situation, because this is, Nine Inch Nails bringing that kind of music into the film, and it's a major part of it. It ended up being a whole different character in the film. So embracing that and having us adjust to both of our departments into that music was really fun. It was a lot of challenging moments, but it really paid off, and we had a great time with it.
Torma, do you want to talk about what you took from your experience mixing with Ron?
Yeah, for me, it's like it's been a really great collaboration from day one, and we kind of found the tone when we met on the first stamp. We of course had many talks, and it's been a great collaboration also with Ron from early beginning. And for me, it's like sitting as a re-recording mixer and supervisor, and of course Ron as an amazing mixer, and also have done lots of effects mixing before. His experience, and he kind of was so great. So we put up that room that we should just be honest with each other, and we should just all of us, and we have this great collaboration that we could say everything and we can talk about everything. Ron, he could just hit me in the backhead if I was so it was a great kind of creative collaboration from day one, and like we always try to make the sound as one unit, like not effects there and music there and dialogue there's like try to be creative to kind of make it into one thing.
One of the things we really benefited from on this was quite a few Tims. Since we hadn't all worked together, that's a place to really, find our workflow, find our relationships, as we're finding the movie as well. And, when you're in the temp mode and trying to get it prepped for a screening, there's definitely a push to just get a presentable screening. We'll save those notes for later, but by the time we got into the premix and the final, we had this very open, like anyone can, it's all our collaboration, every voice counts. And that was really nice.
And that's something also Joachim wants, to be a room where everybody can be open and come with suggestions. And the good thing about Joachim as well, he always wants us to start as early as possible. So when they start editing, we are already kind of started doing design and talked about it, and we follow through the whole process. Because then we can try many things, and we can start to kind of get the whole sound under our skin. And yeah, so for us it's been a longer journey, but it's a good journey.
On the various animated series I work on, we get the finished picture delivery a day before the final playback with clients. For a long time, I would put up the new picture and then all of the premix audio, and I would watch it through really closely, like a hawk, to see if anything had changed. Inevitably, every now and again, I would miss something in the background that's moved by 7 frames, or a character's mouth that is now closed. And then when we were doing the playback, the director would have to stop and point out a fix. It's not an ideal way of working. Now I use Matchbox Change Management tool from the Cargo Cult to quickly run a comparison between the 2 versions of the picture, and Matchbox will notice everything that is different and flag all the changes for me. This not only saves me time, it saves the whole crew time, as everything is all ready to go and allows for fewer notes during playback. It also reduces my stress significantly, as my confidence is high that I have a mix fully ready to play for the clients. And that's just a small portion of what Matchbox can do, especially now that Matchbox 2 is out. Its new intelligent image matching is particularly amazing. It can match shots even if they have had significant visual changes, like the entire background's replaced or extreme color grading. On the other end of the scale, the new diffing mode can detect differences down to the change of a single pixel. Using the follow DAW mode, you can see both versions of picture rolling in real time, easily showing you what has changed. Reconforming in Pro Tools with Matchbox 2 is now much faster and more reliable. The Smart Conform mode performs the reconform on a clip-by-clip basis, maintaining head and tail fades, leaving less of a cleanup job for the editor. The Cargo Cult's Matchbox 2 reveals the differences, reports on the damage, and then retimes your sound mix, saving you incalculable amounts of time. There are too many additions and improvements with Matchbox 2 for me to even mention here, so head over to thecargocult.nz or go to the link in the episode description in your player app to learn more about Matchbox 2 and pull down the free 15-day trial. Matchbox 2 is exactly what you've been waiting for. Spend your time being creative and let Matchbox handle the conforming. There are some really amazing sound design moments in this film. Within this world, they can print organic matter, print giant tanks and stuff like that, similar to the way we think of 3D printers now, but on a massive scale and with lasers. I was super excited when I saw this the first time because it sounds like nothing I've ever heard before. It's got laser elements in it, but the way that it's built is really super interesting sonically. Maybe Addison, do you want to talk about how that was built? Talk me through that a bit, how the director maybe wanted it tackled and how you end up where you landed.
That's another example of a great collaboration. And then Bord and Tormund did a lot of recording that they can speak to for elements for that. So by the time I came on, there was a lot of stuff in place. Joachim, whenever he spoke about it, he wanted it to be very gritty and dirty and just sort of nasty and messy. I had lots of layers of, sparks and crackles and, in addition to just the printing sounds. But for the source recording, these guys did a bunch of recording. So right out of the gate, we were starting with new sounds that hadn't been heard before.
Yeah, actually the first sound that we recorded was a laser cleaning machine. It's clean surfaces with laser that's into different patterns and you could raise the voltage of it. So we can make all this strange sound out of this one strange machine. And if you put some paint underneath, it will sound different if it's just iron. So we recorded a bunch of stuff of that, and lots of that is in the film. But of course, in the processed version of that, of course, the VFX or the picture has changed so many times from the first cut. All these sounds have changed a lot during all these attempts, and of course during the edits.
But for us, it was so important to do all those fresh recordings. We knew that there will be lots of digital sound and soundscape, but we wanted to find something that is more organic. We recorded cellos, instruments, things, and tried to figure out how to blend the digital world with organic sounds. And when it comes to synths recording, we did lots of old Moogs, and because we felt that the old synths or synthesizer are more like organic than the new stuff. So all those together was like experience, and Joachim also challenged us to try to think out of the box and do something that's totally different. So we went out recording tons of stuff, like electronic boats, speed boats, and electronic bikes, and yeah. So we had many elements that we could play with.
Well, what are your go-to processes to kind of take these organic sounds and make them part of the Tron digital world? Do you have any plugins that you discovered that you leaned on for this type of thing?
Nope.
Is there a fun story about that? Can I talk about the voice?
Yeah, sure.
Because we always try to find different plugins and to try to make it the character like Dillinger inside the grid, the voice we call the voice of God, and it's like talking very dark. And we tried so many plugins, and it works quite good on a temp, but you can feel that it's a pitch down, that there is something that is not right. But the cool thing is that Ron has this beautiful low bass voice. So we ended up that you record yourself, and he was the low end, the subwoofer in the Voice of God. We always try to stay away from plugins that make it too digitized or too fake, if you know what I mean.
Definitely.
There was a lot of dialogue processing through the film, as you heard.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime anyone's on the grid, they each had their own set of processing. And, I mean, there's a plethora of plugins there, vocorders and texture, gritty things that would come off of, volume graphing and stuff that to add to certain elements, chorusing and flanging, all sorts of stuff. There's a lot. Each person had 4 or 5 plugins that would go back and forth. Yeah, and then so they each had their own little submix. And then, of course, the idea was that Ares starts very digital as he's on the grid, and he becomes more human as he goes. And then when he's out, there's no processing at all. It's just him. So it becomes more human. And the idea was to create that arc to tell the story with sound as well. As far as the voice of God, and I recorded, I got right up on it to get the proximity effect and, just go way down and just say, you are master control, like way down there like that. And then I double tracked every single line that the actor did and cut them just dead in sync, and then put those in Atmos, brought those back out in the room, and then added some sub, but that's my voice. I'm not pitched. I just went down super deep, and then added him in the center to have the actor be the lead. I'm supporting him with low end and size.
What would remain of the user if she were to suffer de-resolution?
Nothing, sir.
No trace of her existence on the grid?
None.
That brings up an interesting idea that I wanted to talk to you about. With the processing of the voices, so there's obviously that main voice of God, the head, floating head, the kind of Wizard of Oz kind of character in the digital world. And then also, as you mentioned, just the regular characters when they're in the digital world have processing. How does that evolve? Ron, I'm assuming you're doing the final version of it. Did it stay flat until it got to the premix stage, or were you designing that ahead of time so the director could kind of get used to it? When does that processing kind of get figured out?
It got figured out all the way through, very early on, all the way through the dub, even right down to Printmaster. So it was pretty crazy. These guys in Norway ended up doing some of the processing at first to give picture department an idea, and the director in Joachim the idea of what it would sound like. And they had some of their plugins. They brought them to the temp. And so I used those at first, and we played around with them. We had trouble with one of them that wouldn't play back the same thing every time. So I'm like, we liked what it was doing, but it's not very practical. It ended up going through a lot of machinations, very different attempts, like here's really processed, here's more distortion, here's less of this, more of that. And it just, it's such a wide open landscape of you can do anything that no one really has, this is exactly what I want. It's never that way. It's like a feeling. If you sit back and you're an audience member, that's the goal, is that you mix it and you sit back and go, was that really cool? Did I love that? Like, oh man, I love the way that guy sounds. So that's all you go on, is your gut instinct and how you hear it and what you want to try. And of course, there's a billion ideas of where you could go with it. But it all comes down to, as a collective, all the executives, Joachim, of course, from the top down, are they buying it? Do they really like it? Does it help the story? And that's what it's all about. So we went through lots of tries trying to narrow it down into who does what, who has more processing, pitching certain people, doing, all sorts of tricks to get that into what you hear in the audience and in the theaters.
The discussions about the voice processing started even before the shoot, because literally the day that I found out that I was going to be on the film, I get another email saying, Jared,
This is Jared Leto, the main actor and also a producer on the film.
He's up in Canada for the shoot, and he would like to talk to the sound team about his voice processing. So we get on a Zoom with Jared, and he had this idea of not only did he want to hear some like temp version of the processing in his ear, he also, and this was the curveball, he wanted it to be amplified out so the actors could react to that voice, which created a whole other, number of hoops for the production, right? Even during production, we were sending Jared different tests because he thought that it would, it could impact the way that he was, performing. Because Jared was all over it, then it started very early conversations with Tyler Nelson, our picture editor, and they're saying, okay, well, a character is going to sound, one way in the grid and then another way in the real world. Like as soon as you introduce that you're in and out the computer and you have different characters, it just multiplies, right? The options. And, those of us who have been through this a number of times, a lot of times less is more. But you got to start big and kind of break it. And then you dial it back until it fits and feels right. Well, the benefit of having these test screenings, which is, the studio's trying to find their film along the way, but you make each voice sound cool and it's right in the moment. But until you watch the movie in a run and kind of feel how that's working, it's really difficult to know. And so very quickly, I think even after just the first temp, they realized, okay, well, we shouldn't pitch Ares down at all when he's in the real world. There were like some very simple rules like that were established along the way. But we tempted, I don't know, 4 times. I've lost track. But there were quite a few screenings prior to getting to the pre-dub and then the final, where everybody had a chance, from the studio on down to sort of weigh in of, is this feeling right?
It's funny after the premiere, we were at the hotel. I went up to Jared and I asked him, I said, hey, I'm Ron. I did all the dialogue mixing and was very curious how you felt about the processing on your voice. Did we go too far? Did you like it? And he just looked at me. He goes, never enough. I really laughed. He goes, no, I really loved it. I thought it was great. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's the best you could get.
That's interesting because the problem that I think everybody's had in their career is that when you first get assigned to treat a voice, you go too far. You love it. It sounds amazing. And then the next person comes in the room, you listen to this, and they're like, it sounds great, but I have no idea what they're saying. So you got to keep dialing it back. When you're first bussing out all the plugins and toys and stuff, you're not thinking as much about clarity as coolness. And then you realize, oh, wait, the clarity is what's actually important here. So we got to dial it back. What I thought was really impressive for the voice of God voice in the grid, it still sounded really cool. So I'm assuming you guys went way further and had to dial it back to that. The clarity was still there, but the processing was still really impressive. I sat forward in the theater when it first started happening. I was like, ooh.
That's what we want. I mean, I've been through this a few times with both Dune movies and the voice in that. And it's like you said, there was 3 of us working on that for a long time. And Denis just said no to all of them. And we were running out of ideas. Like, what else can we do with this thing, And it takes a long time. It's a long process to get it to happen. And that was clear up to Printmaster. Like the day before, we really finally nailed it. And like, great. And I went back and did the other reels. But that's a tough one, when you start doing that. Because number one, you have to understand what they're saying, and the clarity is so important. So I always had that in my mind with doing, approaching it on this film, that's number one. And whatever we're doing, we better hear what they're saying, because it's so easy to muck it up and go, oh, cool effect. It just means nothing because you've just blown the story.
George Vlad, Andy Martin, and Thomas Rex Beverly are 3 of the sound community's busiest field recordists, and they have joined forces again to raise money for environmental causes this holiday season. All 3 have a deep love for the natural world and actively work to conserve the soundscapes of nature through their field recordings. They are each offering up some of their recordings as prizes to bring the community together to help a great cause. There are 3 identical prizes to win, each worth more than $15,000. These prizes include huge collections of commercial sound effects libraries, a 1-hour call with each of the 3 organizers, and nature albums for casual listening. For every $5 you donate, you get an additional chance to win. So just head over to the Soundscape Fund, found on Thomas Rex Beverly's website, and choose your donation amount. The contest runs until December 28th, 2025, so hit the link in your podcast app's description for this episode for full details and to enter now. One thing that's really interesting about this film, the music feels so integrated into the film that it's hard to tell what's sound design, what's music. And I also felt like the music was being used as maybe not objects, but in the surrounds way more than music is normally spinning around. I don't know if that was just, maybe it was sound design and I thought it was music. I just was really impressed with the way that everything worked together. And obviously, in order for that to happen, you can't all just show up to the mix with hearing the music the first time and hearing the sound design for the first time. So I'm assuming there was a lot of collaboration going back and forth. Maybe Tormod, do you want to tackle that?
Definitely have a great collaboration with Trent Reznor and Atticus. Together with Ron, we got sequences from them where we kind of tried to pitch the sound, and because there were a few scenes that were totally different approach than from the first temp director's cut, because that was like temp music. So I did a pass on effects that we have done, like a pitch and a mixing, and then Ron did a pass on dialogue and music with them, and so that was kind of ongoing. I'm happy that we got all the weeks of the film, because it is always new music coming in and it's always a new challenge. That's how we mixed as well. We was try to be bold to make decisions when we want to have music and when we be more music front loaded. And Atticus was sitting there with us, so that was really great collaboration with all of us. So.
The process started early on with them. They brought in 3 big scenes to work on. They had finished and wanted to hear it mixed on a stage. So I went in, these guys had to fly back to Norway, and I mixed these 3 pieces. And with Addison, he was manning the effects for me, and we were combining stuff even then. But it was all about getting a sense of where the mix should sit with Trent and Atticus before they had to go back out on tour. That was a tough one because they're going to be gone. And it's like, well, I can't ask them, well, what'd you think of this? Because they're in Amsterdam or somewhere. They brought a rig with them on tour and were writing cues while they were on tour as well. But the main stay of the score was done before they left. They were doing other cues and whatnot. But so we went through and mixed these songs and got it to where they liked it. And then once we had that, that was kind of like our foundation of where it's going to sit and how it's going to sound. They delivered everything in 2-track. It was all left, right.
Oh, wow.
So I then put everything into Atmos and then rebalanced, and because it's a major difference of how things fit together. So as far as what's flying around in the room, I took all of it and put what I felt should go back there and what should be in front, because you need to keep a tight group of the band in front that's working, and then whatever else you can float around with synths and vocals or whatever else, delays or reverbs, and that's what you put back out in the room. So it still sounds attached to the film. It's not just, oh, we're just throwing it in objects for fun. It's all about grounding it into the film and then filling it back out, that I've done on a number of films now that I really like how it comes out. But it also allows Addison and Bård and Tormod to put sound effects in front and do things for clarity as well. Poor Tormod had to keep re-pitching and retrying stuff to make it fit within the music as we would get new cues, and he really worked his ass off on that to get things to blend properly, and Addison was coming up with cool stuff, and it was just a great collaboration that allowed us to fit within the music as well.
Addison, did you want to add to that?
Rhythm's a really important thing too, in terms of the music and the sound effects sort of blending together. And that this was sort of put in motion with Tron Legacy. On Tron Legacy, Daft Punk had completely finished the score before the sound crew came on. So we were sort of swimming upstream that entire show. This one was the opposite. We had done full passes and had started sound design reviews with Joachim about some of these signature sounds before the music started to come in. So some changes needed to be made, obviously, all the way to the end. Even when we had the music and could work against it, before a reel would go up, I would have Sally Bolt, our music editor, send us a bounce of the stage sync, what was going to go to stage, because it could be a frame off from what was in the Avid, and it literally was down. I think there was one sound effect that I moved a quarter frame just to get it to hit right in the pocket. So rhythm is a really big deal, and like many people do on many films, if we couldn't get them to roll a shot to make something, we would cheat it. If you play it with just effects and picture, it might look a little bit out, but you put it in sync with the music, and your brain buys into it, and it's more pleasing, and then it can live a little bit louder in the mix than if it was off a little bit, both rhythmically and tonally.
Ron, let's just clarify something. When you say they delivered just a stereo, you mean stems and stereo, right? Not just one stereo.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
No, it was stems for sure.
Yeah, okay, good.
There was probably, 30 stems roughly, or it varied per cue.
Perfect.
A lot of 2 tracks, I should say. Kick drum, left, right, and then, snare, left, right. And then, as it goes down, and there's, a bunch of tracks, 30, 35 tracks sometimes. It gave us a lot to work with. And I got to say, those 2 guys are so into it. They were very hands-on, very, much a part of how the whole film sounded and not just their music. But there would be times when we'd be mixing away, and he's like, we really like more of that bus or the peel out. We should get some of that. And they had ideas as well, and so it was a very good collaboration of all of us to bring that together. Atticus sat with me. They came back after their tour, had a break, and then they had to go back out again. So during that break, Atticus came in every day and sat right next to me, and we went through every single cue. So he was very much into it and wanted to get it right. It was a really fun way to sit down and get what they wanted and hear his ideas. And I'd show him some ideas I had, and it was just going back and forth a lot. It was great.
One thing that was different for them, too, is that they don't ever like to put their music in for temps. And they were about, maybe halfway done with the score, and the head of the studio said, let's get it in, because it is a character in the movie. It is very much defines it. And so their music went in, earlier than I think they would have preferred. And so it forced that sound effects and music conversation to be a little bit earlier than normal, which in the end was really a blessing for us. Ron had mentioned the 3 scenes that we mixed. This is an example where the studio and the filmmakers and the producers, everybody recognized this is a difficult one. They literally gave us 2 or 3 days to sit on a stage, just sound and music, to just try to work it out. No filmmaker there. Get it to a place where we were all feeling good about it, then bring in Joachim and the producers and see how everybody feels about it. And that's what set the tone for what we would do a month later with the final. Once you got that music sounding like what they wanted it to sound like, then they would start to, let's get a little bit more of this sound effect or that sound effect. But that was the process.
Board, did you want to add to that?
The way you mixed it, Ron, also opened up the sound design. You could place that in another way than just having the full frontal that we were kind of asked to do. It all became a much more open mix, even if it's super loud, because of the way that you put everything in the room.
I don't want you to speak for Trent and Atticus, but why do you think they don't want their music to be in the temps?
It's a process for them. I remember early on when they were working, they sort of debriefed with one of our producers and just explaining their process. And there was going to be notes along the way, but we have a plan here. We are going somewhere with this. Let us get to the end, and then we'll circle back around and start to. And so to put it into a temp meant that it was half Nine Inch Nails, half Daft Punk, because there was a lot of Tron Legacy temped into the movie.
Oh, okay.
I think it just cluttered their process probably.
For sure. That makes sense. Something that we haven't talked about yet is the light cycles. These are an iconic piece of film history. Back in the 80s, when the first movie came out, the light cycles were what everyone was talking about. Legacy, the sound evolved, and then we've evolved it again for this film. Do you want to talk about how you kind of paid tribute to the way they previously were? How do you tackle taking on such an iconic thing like that?
With great respect, we listened to what was done on the Legacy, and we tried to kind of be in the same kind of palette, definitely. But we knew that Joachim wanted to be more grittier, more. This is outside the grid, so we need to have the physicality. We need to have the weightness of things. So we had to blend it less electronic, but more like with the movement of the bike and the wind that's passing, and make it a little bit more grittier. That was one of the first scenes. We also got the music from either Nine Inch Nails or Trent Reznor and Atticus. So it was a challenge to get the sound, and because the sound is so iconic from previous films, and to get that through the music. The music is amazing, but it was to kind of feel the bike and feel the speed and everything. And the second part of the light skimmer scene, when there are like two light cycles and you need to find who is chasing who, and that was a great challenge, but it was very fun. And of course, lots of help from Addison as well. Bård did great Foley, like supervising the Foley and Foley effects. So it was a great collaboration, definitely. And I think we mixed that scenes a couple of times before we felt it was, now we're getting there. We come from Europe, and this is kind of the first film we did on this level, like with this type of music. And this way we have done Maleficent and Young Woman in Sea, and that's a different thing compared to this, but to kind of sit together and be bold and do big choices, and that was a really fun part. The story is so important. The taste, we felt that all of us had the same taste, and that's so important as well. We have been collaborating with Joachim, and know his taste, and he's so into music and the rhythm and everything.
When you're mixing a light bite sequence, and you said you had to do it multiple times because you couldn't get it to feel right, how do you keep your head from going into, I've screwed this all up, it's not working, this is never going to work? How do you keep that positivity and know that with the confidence that the stuff is there, we just got to make it work?
For me, it's the biggest thing to never be afraid of failing. Just try and just do something. And if you fail, if you do something wrong, it's often good as doing something half right, or do something right, because then you kind of have something. You always try to find a roadmap where you want to go. And what we felt like we had so many reviews with Joachim with only the light cycle, like only the effects. But he was pushing us. You will be more heavier, and just to be more dynamics, more details. And he was like, we had so many reviews. That was before music comes in. And we really felt that this is working. And then we got the music, and then the only thing that kind of pops by the music was the high frequency, because the music on Nine Inch Nails are like all frequency. So we just felt that the only thing that was left was the high frequency. We have been working so much, both me and Ron and like all of us, to try to get something that are dynamic and not using high frequency, take away all those things and make it wide and use the channels and be very precise. how you pan things, and it takes a lot of time, but it benefits a lot because you want it, and you need to try to focus on the story and what's happening, and it's so many things that go so fast. And
Ron, did you always have confidence you were going to get there?
Always. No. Tormo touched on a very important thing that I've learned over the years, and is when you fail, it's a good thing, and you can't be afraid of that. And you just put out ideas, and it's not so much a failure, it is learning. So you learn, okay, maybe that didn't work. That's going to cause me to go to this level, or I'm going to try that now. And you're going to find your way. And if you always think that, oh, I've done one thing and that's all I got, you should hang your hat and head for the door. So you really need to understand it's an artistic process. If you make a painting and you didn't like the background, you already put the person in front and it's like, it's not good, you start over, you paint it all black and change up the colors, do whatever you got to do to make it right, and you get the background right, great. Okay, cool, we got that. Now we're going to add layers and do that. So as we were mixing and going through, I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches. You've got all this great music. It's very full. It's very, it's super fat. We're just making it rock, and it's all in the speakers. Everything's great. And then he brings his stuff in. He's got all these cool elements, but okay, not all of them fit well. Like, okay, where does it clash? How do you figure out which ones are better than others? Do I need to sculpt things out of music to give him room for certain things? And it's all about level, the tone, and space. So if you're looking at the mix as a big room in your theater, the space is where you're going to pan it into Atmos. The tone is the EQ and where you put things, sonically like this. So if you have some low end stuff and then I put something a little higher than that, and then he gets the 1K and then I'm up here in the 4K, they all fit together as a tonal palette. And then of course, level is the easy one. If it's in the way, you turn it down, or we want to feature that, we turn it up. That's the simple way. But to mix with EQ as a way to make those feather together and fit, that's a great way to do it. And it allows for space and clarity and things to play. And also you can dial back when things are getting too pushy. You can set them back into the room more. That's all EQ. There's a lot of it going on. Of course, compression, reverb, and all sorts of other toys, all come into play. But allowing us to fail is a big point. It's a learning process, and it's not a failure. It's your first try. And then if you keep that in your mind, like, okay, we did that, it didn't work. What didn't work about it? This and that don't work. Oh, great. Okay, they're out. And then you try something else, and you try something else. Of course, it gets frustrating. And yes, you've heard the sequence 8 billion times. Go home, and you're just like, I'm so tired of hearing the light cycles, But that's the way it is. Part of the job. It's monotonous at times, but you keep your head on that idea of creativity. And it forces you to go home and go, and then you come out of the shower and you're like, I got it. I know what I can do that's going to be really cool. And you come into work and you try it and it doesn't work. And you're like, oh, God. Then you try it again, and all of us would bounce ideas like that every day. And you're kind of helping each other, cheerlead them on, like, that's cool. Use more of that, or maybe we could try this. And we all each have each other's backs, in this one big creative process. And that's the most important thing, is you take it as a learning thing and you go to the next level. It challenges you to up the bar.
That's a great spot to wrap it up on, I think, with that kind of positivity. I feel like when I was watching the movie, you could feel that in the soundtrack, that everybody was working together and had each other's back. Thanks a lot for talking to me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thanks to Tormod, Ron, Bård, and Addison for sharing their experiences on such a bold-sounding film. I love it when people from different parts of the world collaborate. That's it for today. Talk to you soon. Sound Ideas is closing out the year with a massive year-end sale, and you're invited. From now through the end of December, enjoy 50% off all proprietary items, including premium sound effects and production music trusted by creators worldwide. Don't wait. These savings disappear on December 31st at midnight as the calendar moves into 2026. So check out sound-ideas.com today to save 50% and create something amazing. Tonebenders is produced by me, Timothy Muirhead. Theme music is by Jim Guthrie. You can reach me via email through info@tonebenderspodcast.com. Follow Tonebenders on Instagram to stay on top of new episodes. If you like the show, you can help us out by spreading the word to your friends and colleagues, or leave us a tip. Just go to tonebenderspodcast.com and click support.